So I'd like to thank my wife, Kobe's girlfriend Alyssa, Kobe, and my son Andrew for making the beginning of this video possible. It was just really nice to actually see what it's going to look like when it's actually out of the garage for the first time and under its own power, even though it was under my own power. I did a couple of videos already on this build, but really not really in depth with what's going on, and I wanted to have it out of the garage today, but the wind is going to make the audio awful. More awful than it actually is. So I thought I could get it partially out and go through some of the stuff that I've done with it to get it to this point. I'll try to put a couple pictures of it as it looked when I got it. If I can figure out how to do it, they'll either be like here or there or maybe here. Not sure yet. Yeah, let me get the camera up here and we'll get closer to it and we'll go through it a little bit. So as I've mentioned before, this is a 1984 CJ7. I bought it from its original owner who bought it new in 1985. This was the last 1984 on the lot when he bought it. This was bought in California, so this is a California edition Jeep. And when I got it, it's 38 years old, I think it's 39 years old. And it had been traveled and driven all over the country. But when I got it, it was quite a disaster. Winters in Ohio, because he moved here in the mid-90s, early to mid-90s, totally eating everything apart. And I was just talking to Kobe about this, that I never sat in this thing before I tore it apart. If I would have sat in it, I probably would have gone and pushed the whole seat down through the floor. The opening intro to this video has it starting the only time I ever started it before I tore it down. I just wanted to make sure it ran. So yeah, that was its first and only start I ever did with it here. But I just wanted to give a quick overview of where we're at currently. I just really wish it wasn't so windy out, because the wind is just going to make it impossible to hear anything. But what I've done, starting from the ground up, I'll get the camera down underneath the body here, and we'll take a quick look at it. Anybody who knows CJs knows that these CJ box frames are very common to be rotted out. And that was actually the reason why I decided to buy this particular Jeep. Well, that and a couple other things. But the main reason was, even though the body was pretty much trashed and the tub was shot, this frame was in relatively good shape. I did have to do a couple little patch pieces in the back, but even those weren't all the way through. They were just thin, so I did patch those. But the frame overall was really good, and mostly because every component on this Jeep leaked. The differential was leaking, the front and rear differentials were leaking, the engine was leaking, the transmission was leaking, the transfer case was leaking. It had slung oil all over the entire frame. There are actually large sections of this thing that actually still had factory paint on it. Got it all cleaned off and to repaint it. So that was really my big thing. The big things I was looking for with a Jeep when I bought one was I wanted the 258 straight six, I wanted a 5-speed, and I wanted a 7. So that's basically what I got. I have, it's got a Dana 300 transfer case, Dana 30 on the front, and an AMC 20 in the rear with single piece axles. though I did have to replace the axles. The ones that were in it, they were already replaced, but they were no good. But let me show you what I did back here in the frame, because this is actually where I started. This is where the majority of the damage was when I got it opened up. It was full of mud and water, and that's what caused these things to rot. And a couple things I did to try to solve that for later. So back here you can see where I have, again, all this dust will come off, but you can see where I've patched in some plate here and a piece of plate on the other side, and actually the same is done on that side. Focus on my finger. Over there on both sides of the frame are also notched, or are also patched in. The rear bumper was, or the rear, what they call the rear cross member, was pretty much gone at these mounts here, so I cut it off and just bought a brand new cross member and put it on. So that's a new piece completely, and then it rests on these nice thick plate, and it should be more than sufficient. And then I got brand new spring hangers, so those are resting on these. So you would really have to do a lot to actually have this rear frame where I patched it fail. There's a couple patches in this area that actually, there's a little bit of Swiss cheese going on in here, that actually cut out the new metal and put in a new piece and then ground it smooth, and you can't really even tell that there was ever a patch done on that part of the frame rail there. Let's see what else. Oh, I got a patch plate up in here. This, let's see. Yeah, this was pretty much gone. As far as, this should be a big hole in here, like that big. That big-ish. Well, but that one, the body mount had pretty much gone all the way through it. So I put a plate. I'll probably have to drill that out a little bit. But again, I'm mounting a fiberglass tub, and it's got a completely different mounting kit, other than a little different than factory. Other than that, the frame was in relatively good shape. I really just cleaned it up really well, wire wheeled it, sandblasted with a little handheld sandblaster in like crevices like this where I couldn't get a wire wheel. Then I did these, which again, I'm hoping this works really well. Focus. There we go. So I welded washers in on a lot of where these were holes. These are through holes through the frame. And there's one there. There's one there, like that. And they're all along the frame on these, and they do tend to have the mud and stuff gets in the frame. You can actually see more on the other side. There's one there. There's one there. There's one there. On that side as well. And that tends to be how a lot of the mud and stuff gets caught in these frame rails. Then it can't get out. I drilled a new hole in the frame right here, and I drilled one up in the front. I do believe that where I did it, yeah. And then I've got factory drain hole here. Yeah, factory drain hole here. So hopefully it'll allow more water to, or more condensation to get out. And then I left the big hole there, because I know on this frame rail, that's where the emergency brake cable runs through. So I still got that hole there on both sides of the rail. I left a couple here and there because I don't want it to get, condensation to build up in there. I want it to be able to dry. The other thing I did then, once I had all that welded in, I set the frame up on an angle, pretty steep angle, and got some of the Eastwood rust encapsulator spray paint. And it comes with a like 3-foot long wand, and I put a wire on it, and I hosed down the entire inside of the frame till it was like dripping out the back of the frame. I'm also planning on fluid filming it every winter, because this is going to be a daily driver for me. This is going to be my main mode of transportation in the wintertime. I also did these here. These are holes I'm going to put plugs in. But this will also allow me to get a hose inside here, and I can pressure wash the inside of the frame to a degree. I mean, it's not going to be perfect, but it'll at least get some of the salt out, and then I can also fluid film through this hole and through the other ones just to get the whole frame done. So I did have one of the big frame repair. This area here is normally a body mount, and it was literally the mount fit through the hole that was here, so they had to be replaced. And there's that wind again. Then, let's see, the axles were wire wheeled and cleaned up really well, and those are sprayed. And the entire frame and axles and pretty much anything black that you see underneath here has been sprayed with a 2K paint. It's a chassis paint that I found. It's relatively inexpensive. I think it was like $170 for a gallon of the actual black, and then you have your reducer and your hardener. So the skid plate's been done with it. The front and rear axles are done with it. The only thing that wasn't done with it was the actual springs. These springs I just did these with the rust encapsulator spray, figuring they're gonna move. So I don't want them to be bound up with paint and get all squeaky. You can kind of notice that I'm still waiting on an engine. I sent it out, but that's where my chassis sits right now. I got a little shimming to do on the rear axles to get my one-piece axles in, and I have to build the suspension up front. I still have to buy all the parts for that. So this is all that's left of the original body that came off it, and it was in such poor shape that there was no salvaging it. I can show you a couple of things here. This is the firewall, and I can get my hand through there, and stuff like this where the cowl is just it was just awful. So there wasn't any use in trying to salvage this body. There wasn't much to weld to. Again, if I can, I'll put some pictures here or here, maybe there of us taking it apart and cutting the body apart. I will show you where I'm at now. This is a second gen 4-wheel drive hardware tub. It is all fiberglass. It does not have the tailgate cut out in it. It does limit your access to anything in the back, but it's not that difficult to reach over the little wall there. This I got for $500, which still maybe seems like a lot, but for a fiberglass tub, it's actually not bad. It does require has required a lot of repair, and it's not even probably half done. Like this hole here, they had squeezed the fiberglass so hard the previous owner had. Now, I say previous owner when I have to go, I don't know how many owners this tub's been through. From what I can tell, this is mounted on at least one other CJ7, and there's a good chance it was mounted on something else that wasn't a CJ, because the amount of holes in this thing were insane. The downside of all the holes in it, and fiberglass being amazing for Ohio, when they start drilling a whole bunch of holes in this thing, water got into the core, because this is a double wall tub, which is what makes these 4-wheel drive hardware tubs awesome. You have an exterior and an interior fiberglass layer, but we have a core in the middle that's about a 1/2 inch, 3/8 to a 1/2 inch thick, and water got into this one. Now, the reason I know this is a second gen tub, there's a couple ways I could tell that. One, and you can't see it here because I have hard doors sitting inside here. The floor of the back seat area has got ribs in it, and it's also an embossed 4-wheel drive hardware logo right at the edge of the drop off, to the driver and passenger side floor. The first gen tubs did not have that. They were just a smooth floor. The other reason I can tell this is a second gen tub, this has got a balsa wood core, which is not bad. This is how boats have been built for years. If you buy a modern sailboat, it's going to be fiberglass with a balsa core. That's standard building practice and works fantastic as long as you keep the water out of it. The first gen tubs, and I remember this from their video way back when my brother bought his tub in '93. Yeah, they have what's called Nidacore in the first gen tubs, and Nidacore is a synthetic core material. It is a closed cell, like honeycomb, and it's not going to travel through your glass and damage it. This was not that way. Every bit of every bit of balsa in this tub was pretty much rotten, and so I had to cut the bottom of the floor out, put a new core in. I didn't use balsa core. I actually found an ABS core, which I don't know if that's going to work. It seems to bond to fiberglass and resin really well, so I'm hoping that will strengthen. I mean, the floor, this back floor, you could almost step through. It was really bad. It is way stronger now, and I haven't even finished putting the support pieces in. You can see where I've been patching. No, this whole back floor has been replaced with new fiberglass up into the roll down over there. It still probably needs 1 or 2 more layers of glass on it to really strengthen up to where I want it to be. Driver's side floors. So I have gone through, again, this is all new ABS and fiberglass on the floor there, up through there, and all the way down to the back here. It's all new glass. This was a massive hole. A couple of patch points. This here on these four-wheel drive hardware tubs is a steel plate that they put in here to reinforce for your brake pedal and everything that goes in here. And this plate had completely rusted away. And so I cut out what was left and I put a piece of aluminum in here now. And then I put 2 layers of carbon fiber and 1 layer of carbon Kevlar to strengthen that front firewall, which is way more than what they had. That's actually quite a bit stronger now. The last thing I'm going to talk about really quick, and again, everything I'm going to go way in more depth as I actually work on more of it. The interior on this was a Nutmeg high back seats. Not a big fan of the Nutmeg, and I wanted to go dark anyway. So I found these on Marketplace. These are out of an 09 Volkswagen Golf, and I think they are super comfortable. All I had to do was modify the brackets. So it still sits on the factory CJ mount, so they still mount to the tub as they should. But I had to build new brackets to the sliders so that these still slide front to back. You have a decent amount of slide. Yeah, I do a little bit of chopping, but these are really comfortable seats. And what you can see, and that's actually even more, in my opinion, a little more impressive for what I could do myself, was the back seats are also out of an 09 Jetta. You can see them kind of underneath there. I think I took out 14 inches out of the seat, so you can fold one down and have one up, or fold them both down like I have right now, so that you can get, storage stuff in the back here. My trans is ready to go back in. My crank is sitting right here. I have a brand new cam for it. There is my head all wrapped up there. My block, I'm still waiting to get back from the machine shop. It's been there now almost 7 weeks, and I don't know why I look over here. I look at the little things, the stop and pause button for some reason, instead of looking over here at the camera. I'm gonna have to stop that habit. Just there, and it's probably gonna look weird because I'm not looking at you. I'm looking over here, and there's nothing over here. Well, thank you all for joining me, and I hope this has given you a little more insight to where my build is going to go with Rusty. I'm excited, and like the beginning of this video, it got me a little bit more pumped to get it built, to actually see people sitting in it and actually moving, because that's the first time that's ever happened, even if it was just me doing it. Thanks a lot, guys. Remember to like and subscribe to the video, and ring a bell. I guess there's a bell somewhere, or maybe I don't have a bell yet. I don't know. Thanks a lot, guys.